0 minutes.
Brooklyn Ford starting goaltenders. The former Oilers, Devin Dubnyk, where he started his NHL career, has had good success against the Oilers. The Wild hope that he can continue with that stretch. Victor Fost has won a couple games in a row. He's feeling good about his game. The Wild need to test him, and they need to finish on all opportunities in order to win this hockey game.
Frost had played just once in an 8-game stretch for Edmonton before making back-to-back starts to close the pre-All-Star break portion of their schedule. Todd Nelson, first season with the Oilers, took over in mid-December.
Todd Nelson's the players coach. He's the taskmaster of the Oilers. If they need him to be good right off the hop.
Referees
tonight are Brian Buckner, Kyle Raymond, Darren Gibbs, and Mark Wheeler are the linesmen. And we're ready for hockey for the first time in Rogers Place. Connor McDavid's on the ice with his new line mates Milan.
Jason Zucker tips to the corner. Pominville behind the net for Minnesota. Koivu, Pominville, Zucker, the forward trio for Minnesota. Matt Hendricks wraps it around behind the Edmonton goal, and the Oilers come to center. Klinkhammer dumps it into Minnesota territory. Hendricks quickly in, ridden out by Spurgeon in the corner. Koivu pokes it ahead, and Zucker races through neutral ice. Zucker and Pominville hit the Edmonton line. Zucker had it knocked away. He'll recover at neutral ice and play it back to Ryan Suter. Suter and Brodin, the defensive pairing for Minnesota. Suter ahead to Granlund, who tips it in. Granlund, first game back for the Wild, missed the last 13 with a wrist injury. He plays between Parise and Vanek here tonight. Vanek on the forecheck for Minnesota. Oilers gain control of the puck. And back through neutral ice. Pouliot plays it across. Too far for Nugent Hopkins. It deflects off the boards. Granlund ties up there in the corner. And Suter slides it around behind the net for Jonas Brodin. Brodin plays it off the glass and all the way down. Icing waved off. And Justin Schultz will be forced to play it for Edmonton. Long pass ahead sends Everly into the Minnesota zone. He's knocked off the puck by Scandella. And now Spurgeon with it for Minnesota. Spurgeon turns it over. Intercepted by Roy. He tried to play it across to Yakupov, but he had fallen. And now Matt Cook is in for Minnesota. Cook cut off along the wall. Plays it in behind for Fontaine. Fontaine behind the back to Brodziak. Brodziak trades spots with Matt Cook. Sends one toward the goal. And Foss knocks it down. Into the corner. Fontaine on the forecheck for Minnesota. Pokes the puck in behind the net. Matt Cook bumps with Roy there. The Oilers finally gain control, and they come to center ice.
Well, the Wild wanted to build an MO. It was a forechecking team, a team that spends a lot of time in the offensive zone. And so far in this game, they're proving that they can be that. Albeit against the Oilers, the Wild have to play every team like they're the top team.
Niederreiter taps it across to Charlie Coyle. Coyle into the Edmonton zone. Coyle on his backhand, tried to force one in, and Fost was able to deflect it aside. Suter holds the zone for Minnesota. Carter plays down low. Niederreiter bumped off the puck by Nikitin, and it's picked up there by Fane. Fane plays it out. Brodin gloves and drops. Quickly back the other way. Charlie Coyle slides it deep into the Edmonton zone. He heads off on a change. Oilers come out of their zone with Mark Fane. Wrapped back in by Pominville. Zucker in on the forecheck for Minnesota, but the Oilers play to center. Boyd Gordon at the Minnesota line. Dumps it into the corner. Hendricks takes a hit there. Hendricks out to the point. Ferentz with a shot. That goes wide. Zucker to Koivu. Koivu ducks under a check. Got the puck to Pominville. Pominville into the Edmonton zone. Pinned up against the boards. Koivu tries to support, but Klinkhammer is able to flip it out and into the Minnesota zone.
Well, we're having a break here. The Wild are making some pretty good reads early on. Guys covering for each other and stepping into the right lane. So far, the Wild with good control of this hockey game.
Scandella spins out of a check, controls the puck in his own zone. Scandella and Spurgeon paired tonight on the blue line for Minnesota. Mike Yo has his top four back with their regular partners here tonight. Koivu plays it in behind the net. Scandella trying to chip it up the wall to Parise. That's intercepted by Everly. Pouliot lost the handle on it in the high slot. Pominville had it for Minnesota. Parise able to play it to neutral ice. Wild complete their change as Nugent Hopkins starts it back the other way. Takes the return pass into the Minnesota zone. Knocked away by Granlund. Granlund and Parise at center. That results in a turnover at the Edmonton line. Nugent Hopkins has it knocked away, but Everly's there to play it around. Clefbaum plays down low. The end of the corner. Everly back to the point. And quickly across. Schultz back to Clefbaum. His shot blocked by Granlund. Bouillon around behind the net. Parise's the first man there for Minnesota. Flips to the corner and Granlund picks it up for the Wild. Mikhail Granlund knocked to the ice by Pouliot, and we get a whistle. We're going to have it. Flips to the corner and Granlund picks it up for the Wild. Mikhail Granlund knocked to the ice by Pouliot, and we get a whistle. We're going to have a penalty called on the play that will give Minnesota a power play chance.
I don't know what they're... Allen's the one going.
Minnesota, number 64, 2 minutes for delay of game. Closing his hand on the clock.
He had been pushed down to the ice, and apparently a referee saw him put his hand on the puck behind the net. Here he tries to protect it. Before check continues, and yeah, he put his hand and swept it aside. Doesn't get away with that.
And you mentioned a young player trying to make his mark in the National Hockey League. That timing there as Russell turned around with the reverse pass and Kachuk didn't lay up the time. So the first penalty and an early opportunity for the Oilers to get this crowd back on the pitch.
We're going to have a penalty call on the play. Mikhail Granlund not really called the Pouliot, and we get a whistle. We're going to have a penalty call on the play that will give Minnesota a power play chance.
I don't know what they're calling. I think put
to the year. That's 1 power play goals in their last 10 games, but only 14% on the year. That's 27th in the NHL. Wild on the kill, number 11 in the league for the year. They've allowed 4 power play goals in their last 5 games. Mark played with a high 10 games, but only 14% on the year. That's 27th in the NHL. Wild on the kill, number 11 in the league. Goals in their last 5 games. Mark played with a high stick.
We mentioned the importance of them getting off to good starts. Elliott lets his first in. And for Cam Talbot, the very same. It's just a simple dump in there. The puck is loose. A heads-up play by Chesson, though, coming from behind. How quickly he gets one chance at it and quickly jumps on the rebound. I don't think the reaction by Talbot, Jim, was one that he knew where that rebound went to. And in a split second, he opened the 5-hole and threaded the Calgary winger with finding that little room that there was there, as you see from the...
Purcell with it here for
36 seconds after the goal. Patrick Maroon, 0%. Calgary's done with Chesson.
Purcell with it here. Purcell with it here for Edmonton. 0% and the Oilers start ahead. Frazier at center ice to Yakupov. Able to get it past Prosser, but now Nikitin holds. Nikitin works his way down low. Scandella got a stick on it. Harder there for Minnesota, and he's able to send it the length of the ice. Oilers will regroup just about halfway through the game's first power play. Everly races through neutral ice, but turned it over at the Minnesota line. And the Oilers will again have to go the length of the ice. Justin Schultz starts it out for Edmonton. Offensive-minded defenseman, 113 points in 3 seasons with the Wisconsin Badgers. Hasn't enjoyed the same success in the National Hockey League. 35! Schultz carries ahead. Nugent Hopkins to the Minnesota line. Scandella cleared. He hit Zucker in the back with his clearing attempt. Forced the Wild to send it the length of the ice once more. Down to 22 seconds in the Edmonton power play. Ferentz plays it in from the Minnesota line. Spurgeon back to the Wild. Got it to the line. Petrie holds. Works his way to the middle and fires a glove save by Dubnyk. And that's the first puck toward the net for Edmonton during this power play.
When Dubnyk saw that all the way, there was a clear lane all the way to the net. And Dubnyk just caught that rather handily. Check out the lane that you see right here. Boy, goaltenders just salivate when they see a guy winding up on the blue line and there are no bodies or sticks in the way. And that was an easy glove save and face-off
Suter has it for Minnesota. Granlund will be back in 2 seconds as the puck comes out to neutral ice. Gordon slides it back into his own zone. Granlund's back on. The Wild are at full strength. But a very effective penalty kill by Minnesota. Suter to Koivu. Across to Zucker. Zucker gains the offensive zone. Pominville, first man in for Minnesota. Pominville bumps in the corner. Zucker grabs a loose puck to Koivu, a shot. And it was just high and wide. Brodin holds for Minnesota. Zucker whacks it back into the corner. Pominville there. Trying to escape Petrie in the corner. Kicks it free for Zucker. Zucker spins away from Ferentz. Zucker still with the puck. Back down low to Koivu. Koivu on his backhand, trying to work his way out front. He was tied up by Gordon. Zucker now has it. Out to the point for Suter. Suter waits. Back in and around just out of the reach of Pominville. The Oilers gain control. A lot of offensive zone time for Minnesota, but not much in the way of scoring chances. They have just one shot on goal, 7.5 minutes in. Poland holds the zone for Minnesota. Vanek has his stick caught in the boards. Nugent Hopkins comes back the other way for Edmonton, but it's whistled down offside.
Well, someone can do limbo, maybe.
Welcome back to Rexall Place. No score between the Oilers and the Wild. Thomas Vanek. Great news. He did get his stick back out of the wall. And also great news recently for Minnesota Wild fans as the Coors Light Stadium Series outdoor game is coming to the state of hockey next February when the Wild host their arch rivals, the Chicago Blackhawks, at TCF Bank Stadium. Fans, you can get your tickets to the outdoor game, and the best way to do it is to get Wild season tickets for next year. Call 651-222-WILD or visit wild.com. Guys, I had a conversation with Zach Parise about that news. He said he's really excited about it. He said it's about time. Grew up in Bloomington. He said such a big part of being a Minnesotan, taking the game outside. He's had conversations with other pros that have been a part of it, and it's really stoked his appetite for getting out there.
Should be exciting, Kevin. No question about it. Feels like it's been long overdue for the Minnesota Wild to take part in one of those outdoor games with how big a part of life outdoor hockey has been throughout the state of hockey. Everly behind the net for Edmonton. Centers. It was tipped away by Brodin. Klefbom holds the zone. Next shot was blocked by Granlund, who plays it ahead at center. Vanek for Minnesota into the Edmonton zone. Drops to Parise. Now Granlund supports. Back to Parise for a shot. Saved by Foss. Rebound loose. Spurgeon fires, and that hit traffic, deflects to the corner.
Oh, that wasn't a goaltender save. The last one that Parise got, the defenseman got in the way with his skate. Parise, tenacious as always, was looking for yet another goal. He's put up plenty on the board in the last 3 or 4 games.
Foss thought he had the puck frozen, and it was loose in the Edmonton crease.
Well, Parise has a way of pulling them loose. He continues to pitchfork away at the puck, and sometimes he's able to dislodge it.
Nifty play by Fontaine to get it to the point for Poland. Niederreiter bumps with Klefbom in the corner, and the Oilers emerge with the puck. Yakupov spins away from one man, lost the puck to Fontaine. Niederreiter scores! Nifty play by Fontaine to get it to the point for Poland.
Pulling them loose. He continues to pitchfork away at the puck, and sometimes he's able to dislodge it.
Nifty play by Fontaine to get it to the point for Poland. Niederreiter bumps with Klefbom in the corner, and the Oilers emerge with the puck. Yakupov spins away from one man, lost the puck to Fontaine. Niederreiter scores!
Able to dislodge it. He continues to pitchfork away at the puck, and sometimes he's able to dislodge it.
Nifty play by Fontaine to get it to the point for Poland. Niederreiter bumps with Klefbom in the corner, and the Oilers emerge with the puck. Yakupov spins away from one man, lost the puck to Fontaine.
And some time by that far out, and you see warning
well outside to Zucker, and Foss out to cover this puck well outside the Edmonton crease with Zucker nearby.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a warning, because the goaltender freezes the puck that far out, and you see Zucker having a chat with the referee as well, and likely asking him, how can you let him freeze that puck that far outside his crease? But good pursuit, good speed so far here by the Wild. They are forechecking like a team that
crease. And Fost out to cover this puck well outside the Edmonton crease with Zucker nearby.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a warning because the goaltender freezes the puck that far out. And you see Zucker having a chat with the referee as well, and likely asking him, how can you let him freeze that puck that far outside his crease? But good pursuit, good speed so far here by the Wild. They are forechecking like a team that we saw early on in the season.
Petrie behind the net for Edmonton. Sends it the length of the ice. This will be icing against the Oilers. Justin Fontaine, the only assist on the goal by Niederreiter. Fontaine made a couple of good plays on that shift to help keep the puck alive for Minnesota.
Well, Fontaine's not from too far away from here. Bonneville, Alberta, which is northeast of Edmonton, and actually he spent his All-Star break in his hometown and then just met the team here yesterday. He said he did some ice fishing while he was, and what else are you going to do? What here in mid to northern Alberta?
Suter holds for Minnesota. Gordon for Edmonton flips it up in the air, and it went into the netting. They say there will not be delay of game as the puck hit the boards first. It'll be an offensive zone draw for the Wild.
Nino Niederreiter. It's been a while since he put the puck in the net, but we've seen what he can do when he's confident about his game. First 29 games this year, 14 goals, 64 shots, or about 2.2 shots per game. In his last 17, no goals, and about 1.5 shots per game. He needs to go to those tough areas. He needs to keep shooting the puck. And maybe that goal right there is the start of a good stretch for him.
Got a penalty coming here against Minnesota right off the faceoff. An interference call, I believe, against Matt Cook. Oh, it's a trip against Cook.
Yeah, it's basically holding up a player that's driving out to the point. When you win the faceoff, you used to be allowed to, and maybe even when Matt Cook was in some of his early years in the National Hockey League, you used to be able to hold a guy up. Watch the right side of your screen. You used to be able to not trip a guy, but you used to be able to get in front of him and slow him up so he wouldn't pursue the point man and give the point man time to shoot it. You can't do that anymore, and you certainly can't trip a guy. So that's why he got the gate.
Nugent Hopkins works his way in for Edmonton. Drops it back. Everly, a shot knocked down by Dubnyk. Everly and Brodziak collide in the corner. Second power play for Edmonton in this game. Everly bumped by Folin. Out to the point. Schultz holds his own. Nugent Hopkins along the wall for the Oilers. Plays down low. Pouliot back to Nugent Hopkins. A shot saved by Dubnyk. And he covers up. Second power play for Edmonton in this game. Everly bumped by Folin. Out to the point. Schultz holds his own. Nugent Hopkins along the wall for the Oilers.
Newly signed by the Calgary. After the players, Mark Giordano. The long pass to Mark for the finger.
Face-off will come
Over to the players. So new deal, bring up to this new building. The excitement of having Johnny Gaudreau back in the lineup with the new deal is going to give them energy. And we saw Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky skating around the rink. And I think the natural passing of the torch is the new captain, Connor McDavid. No question who the star is here. And what an opportunity to build his own legacy in this amazing.
Some of those forwards may know that, so some weaknesses, or they may know how to beat him.
Slider at 17.
So often, so that's the challenge. Dubnyk's passed that test very well so far against the Oilers this season.
9 seconds of 1 hour,
Wearing an Arizona Coyotes jersey.
56 seconds.
Lander into the Minnesota zone. Around behind, intercepted by Scandella, who sends it the length of the ice. We mentioned during the pregame show tonight that Dubnyk has faced his former Edmonton Oilers teammates 3 times this year, beaten them all 3, allowing just 1 goal in each of those 3 starts.
14 minutes, 42 seconds of 1 hour,
went into the netting. They say there will not be delay of game as the puck hit the boards first. It'll be an offensive zone draw for the Wild.
Nino Niederreiter. It's been a while since he put the puck in the net, but We've seen what he can do when he's confident about his game. First 29 games this year, 14 goals, 64 0%. Shots, or about 2.2 shots per game. In his last 17, no goals, and about 1.5 shots per game. He needs to go to those tough areas. He needs to keep shooting the puck.
0% for the biggest goal.
That goal right there is the start of a good stretch for him.
Got a penalty coming here against Minnesota right off the faceoff. An interference call, I believe, against Matt
for a long time.
The goal in each of those three starts. A 0.97 goals against that.
17 minutes, 50 seconds.
No,
17 current.
Two of those coming here in this building.
There's something to be said about sight lines for a goaltender in a rink. And every rink's different. Even though they have the same dimensions, it's just the way the rink sets up. And even advertisements on the boards make a difference sometimes to goaltenders in terms of their vision and their ability to find the puck.
Wozniak got it to the line, but Petrie holds the zone. Roy works his way toward the slot, then his shot was blocked. It flutters down in front of Koivu, who sends it all the way down. And we're down to just 5 seconds left in the Matt Cook minor penalty. Wild are back at full strength. Their penalty killers 2 for 2 tonight. Purcell into the Minnesota zone. Cook played it out, but Ferentz holds the zone. Petrie centers. That was deflected, and Cook has it with Parise breaking through the neutral zone. Granlund now has it for Minnesota. Granlund to Parise. Flips one on goal. Saved by Faust, and he just covers. Granlund knifing in there. He saw the puck was loose before the whistle had blown. Petrie takes exception, and the whistle settles it down. Nino Niederreiter, with his 15th of the year, has Minnesota in front in Edmonton. Wild 1, Oilers 0. Devin Dubnyk between the pipes for Minnesota tonight, hoping to get to the magic number of 91%, our Toyota key stat. The league average is 90.9. When the Wild have had that number or better, 91%, you can see their marks. 18-3-1. And what's interesting, Mike, is it's obviously the goals against average is down, but even the other aspects of the game seem to be better for the Wild when they're 91%, our Toyota key stat. The league average is 90.9. When the Wild have had that number or better, 91%, you can see their marks. 18-3-1. And what's interesting, Mike, is it's obviously the goals against average is down, but even the other aspects of the game seem to be better for the Wild when they're getting good goaltending. Their scoring is up.
It's a confidence factor when you play in front of a goaltender. That's
29
And he
seconds.
covers up. Faceoff will come in the Minnesota zone 30 seconds into the power play.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword for Dubnyk. Obviously, he knows these Oilers fairly well. He's played with them before his stint with Arizona. And it's familiarity for him to know guys that know how to shoot the puck. He's practiced against them for a long time. But as I said, it's a double-edged sword because those forwards may know.
Oilers 0. When the Wild and the other.
That's making the save for you, and 91%. As you said, that's average. So when you get to average, and your team is average to above average, you're going to win a lot of hockey games, and that's all the Wild are asking right now. Devin Dubnyk has a good opportunity to come in and put up some decent numbers if he can hold that number or higher.
And you see his career number, 90.9, is exactly the league average for this season.
And keep in mind, too, his career number is pretty decent when you think about the fact that he played for the Oilers and the Arizona Coyotes.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mike. He was hit hard.
I think it was a puck that caught him coming around the glass. The puck may have actually come around and caught him right in the head, in the face, or in the mouth. It was a wraparound. He's had a couple of facial injuries this year. You remember in New York, playing the Rangers, he took that cut right underneath the nose and toward the cheek, and this one looks like it came wrapping around the glass, and I believe it was the puck that caught him. Here's the rim around by Suter. was either that or the defender's stick, but it looked like it could have been the kind of timing where the puck came around and came off the glass awkwardly.
It looked like he may have been hit simultaneously by the Oiler defender. That's probably what knocked him into position to be hit by the puck. Parisi straight to the locker room. And watches he's hit just before the puck arrives. It probably knocked him off balance a bit.
Yeah. That's Smarts, but he'll likely be back. We'll keep you updated.
Another long attempt at a stretch pass by Minnesota, with Zucker breaking in behind the Oiler defense. Pominville now carries in. His shot knocked down by Fost. Rebound. Eberle got it to the line, but Koivu holds for Minnesota. Zucker in behind. Pominville was uncovered in the slot. Zucker just couldn't find the handle on the puck cleanly in behind the Edmonton goal. Suter ahead for Zucker. He's tied up at center. Brodin's pass. About the equipment of Eberle, and Nugent Hopkins is back for the Oilers. Eberle taps to Nugent Hopkins. In on the backhand. Prosser pokes it away. Eberle has his shot deflected just wide. A centering pass comes to the point for Nikitin. Into the corner. Yakupov tied up by Suter. Yakupov has had a tough third year in the NHL. Just 12 points in 47 games this year. Out to the point for Nikitin, and his shot is held by Dubnyk. Into the corner, Yakupov tied up by Suter. Yakupov has had a tough third year in the NHL. 12 points in 47 games this year. Out to the point for Nikitin, and his shot is held by Spain plays it in behind. Roy centering pass. Made it through to the slot. Fontaine got just enough of it to disrupt the scoring chance. Purcell was there for Edmonton. Now Fontaine ahead for Niederreiter. 3-on-2 at the Edmonton line. Fontaine with some room. Centered, and the loose puck comes to the wall. Niederreiter sends to the corner. Nikitin had it caught in the official skate. And now Fane plays it ahead. Brodin knocks it down. His long shot wide of the net. Niederreiter knocked down from behind along the boards. He and Yakupov battling there. Good effort by Niederreiter to keep the play alive for Minnesota. Poland knocks it down, but this will be a hand pass against the Wild. Niederreiter's goal still the only marker. 1-0 for the Wild. Sad news to report from the state of hockey this past weekend. Crystal resident Greg Reedy was participating in the North American Pond Hockey Championships on Excelsior Bay when he collapsed and passed away. Reedy was 46 years old. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. A memorial fund has been established in his name. If you would like to donate, please go to www.gofundme.com/Greg Reeby, R-I-E-B-E. Greg Reeby played his high school hockey at Wayzata. An unbelievable, sad story during the North American Pond Hockey Championships this past weekend. Here the Wild are leading the Oilers 1-0 on a goal by Nino Niederreiter. Here the Wild are leading the Oilers 1-0 as on a series progress.
And that man right there, Justin Fontaine, who is playing close to home, very close to home, is having a pretty good hockey game. He is all around the puck. He helped set up, obviously, the Niederreiter goal by picking the pocket of the Wild or the Edmonton defender, and he set up a couple of other chances as well. Good to see him playing strong in this game.
Scandella fires off the glass. Brodziak holds his own for Minnesota. Brodziak, Cook, Fontaine, the 3 forwards for Minnesota. Scandella's drive well off target. Brodziak fires. Another man playing close to home sends one on goal, and Fost hangs on for Edmonton.
Yeah, he's from
holds his own for Minnesota. Brodziak, Cook, Fontaine, the 3 forwards for Minnesota. Scandella's drive well off target. Brodziak fires. Another man playing close to home sends one on goal, and Fost hangs on for Edmonton.
Yeah, he's from St. Paul, but St. Paul, Alberta.
Game reset. Niederreiter with the goal. Dubnyk making his 5th consecutive start for the Wild. The 4th time that he has faced the Oilers, his former team, this season. The first 3 came when he was with the Arizona Coyotes. There's a good chance we'll see time that he has faced the Oilers, his former team, this season. The first 3 came when he was with the Arizona Coyotes.
There's a good chance we'll see how many games Dubnyk can play, not necessarily consecutively, but how much of a body of work he can handle. The Wild have a fairly favorable schedule in terms of being able to play a goaltender a lot. Only one back-to-back set in the month of February.
Vanek shot deflects wide. Carter taking the spot of Parise on this shift. Parise not yet back on the bench for Minnesota after being hit in the face moments ago. Suter plays ahead for Carter. Carter could not clear the zone for Minnesota. Granlund got it to the line. Now Suter settles a bouncing puck in the Minnesota zone. And it deflects out the center ice. Klefbom back to pick it up for the Oilers. Pouliot has it poked away by Zucker at neutral ice. Pouliot had a little bit of a goal-scoring surge for Edmonton just before the break. Back-to-back two-goal games. Pominville got it to Zucker. Zucker back to Pominville in the corner. He's hit by Schultz on the play. And the loose puck picked up by Pouliot along the wall. Pouliot scored twice at St. Louis, twice at Tampa. Interestingly, those were the only 4 goals scored by Edmonton in those 2 games. Both losses. In all, he has 7 goals and 8 points in his last 9 games. Pouliot deflects this out through neutral ice. Klinkhammer hustles into the Minnesota zone. Cut off there by Scandella. Hendricks out to the point. Ferentz across for Petrie. Petrie waits for a lane. Then has his shot blocked by Pominville. Good battle by Gordon to keep it alive. Hendricks back out to the point. Ferentz gives to Hendricks. Hendricks whips it across for Petrie. His shot got through but was wide. Hendricks holds the zone. Plays it down into the corner. Boland's tied up there by Gordon. Boland wins that battle and got it to Pominville. Pominville tried to thread one through for Coyle. That was intercepted. And the Oilers will change. Ferentz to Petrie. And it deflects off of Roy and out of play.
Well, Edmonton, they right now hold the longest current playoff drought in the National Hockey League. 8 years. They have not qualified for the playoffs since losing in Game 7 of the 2006 Stanley Cup Final. They've made a coaching change this year. They made some personnel changes last summer, excuse me. They're really a team that's trying to find their way.
Dubnyk fanned on it, and the puck wound up right out front. Charlie Coyle alertly there to clear for Minnesota.
We've seen that play before by Dubnyk. He likes to take a good swat at it. This one he missed entirely, and it almost cost him.
Oilers start back. Klefbom tapped to the head. Spurgeon deflects back into the Edmonton zone. Spurgeon waits for his mates to get on side. Now carries in. Across to Prosser. Prosser works his way down low center, and Niederreiter tipped it just wide. Niederreiter smelling offense here tonight. Already with a goal. Snapping a 17-game goalless drought. Brodziak carrying back for Minnesota. Across to Pominville. Pominville into the Edmonton zone. Finds Ryan Suter. Drops to Brodziak. He couldn't get a shot away before Klinkhammer got a piece of it. Brodin holds his own. Brodziak tried to center. Pominville was tied up by Ferentz. And the Oilers able to clear. Brodin has it there for Minnesota. Lander would have been offside, had to retreat. Then Cook carried out the center. Penalty coming against Edmonton as Cook was upended on a play that's not all that dissimilar from the hit by Cook that resulted in a suspension during the playoffs last year. This play eerily similar as Cook goes down in center ice.
Ron Cook's a pretty tough customer when it comes to the physical play, and anything that keeps him down for any period of time has to have been pretty significant. But it does get up under his own power. That's good to see. But oh yeah, that looked like it was an attempt with the hip, but it looked like the knee came out a little bit as well. And so Klinkhammer gets the tripping penalty, and Cook trying to shake it off. Look at that. Oh yeah, that knee came out. That is exactly the argument against Cook, with the fact that he had a player lined up, the player moved, and he extended in order to get a piece of him. And that right there is exactly what happened with Klinghammer. The only difference is that Cook was able to get up and get off under his own power.
Wild going the power play. Edmonton quickly with a chance to clear, but Granlund intercepts. Granlund carries in for Minnesota. Granlund, Vanek, Koivu up front. Koivu to Granlund in the corner. Out to Suter up high. Suter back to Granlund. Granlund looking for space along the half wall. Vanek tips it across for Pominville. Pominville fires, and that's high and wide. No Zach Parise for Minnesota. So Granlund takes his spot on the top power play. Suter fires, glove save by Fox. Wild power play at 15.7% on the year. But that's a little misleading because of a very slow start. Our CenturyLink link to what's next. We'll hear more from the Star Tribune's Michael Russo. His thoughts on the first period here tonight and what's happening elsewhere around the National Hockey League. Wild control the draw. Suter to Pominville for a drive. Saved by Foss. Rebound into the corner. Koivu and Ferentz hustle there. Koivu in behind for Granlund. He's shoved up against the wall. Played it up the boards. Oilers clear to the line. Suter holds for a moment. Puck squirts free all the way across. Ferentz and Koivu hustling after it. Nugent Hopkins got it to the line. Pominville holds. Granlund taps to Koivu. Koivu to Granlund. The fly. He fires right on goal.
And the puck is out of the Edmonton bench, stopping play. Can you mention all the shots for the
Wild
Edmonton
power
Oilers?
play.
They had the attempts, though, but this is regular season hockey, and you got a block shot. Bowman gets one right in the hand. That one slides in front of the net on the penalty kill. Englund does a nice job. McDavid goes and forces, and there's three big blocks that nicked up all three Calgary Flames who did them. What's going through the mind of Brian Elliott, though, right now, Jim, in his first game with a new club with so much? That's Brian Elliott. The forces, and there's three big blocks that nicked up all three Calgary Flames who did them. What's going through the mind of Brian Elliott, though, right now, Jim, in his first game with a new club with so much at stake? A little bit of bad luck, but 2 shots, 2 goals. You want to erase that quick.
Seconds of the period.
Zucker finding an open hole, and certainly Granlund
Fires right on goal. Saved by
finding an open hole, and certainly Granlund was able to do that on that quick little give and go. And he got a lot of steam on that shot.
final seconds of the period. Zucker carries in, lost it at the Edmonton power play. Suter fires, glove save by Fox. Wild power play at 15.7% on the year. But that's a little misleading because of a very slow start. Our CenturyLink link to what's next. We'll hear more from the Star Tribune's Michael Russo. But that's a little misleading. 15.7% on the year. But that's a little misleading because of a very slow start. Our CenturyLink link to what's next. We'll hear more from the Star Tribune's Michael Russo. His thoughts on the first period here tonight and what's happening elsewhere around.
Voice recorder drop.
Wild control the draw. Suter to Pominville for a drop. The Star Tribune's Michael Russo.
Voice recorder, voice recorder, voice recorder, voice recorder.
Okay, settle down, settle down.
And what's happening elsewhere around the National Hockey League.
We found it.
Slow starter. CenturyLink link to what's next. We'll hear more from the Star Tribune's Michael Russo.
Supper at 4:45. 5.
His thoughts on the first period here tonight and what's happening elsewhere around the National Hockey League. Wild control the draw. Suter.
And the period comes to an end. YouTube video.
To the end of the great start. Brilliant chance. Koivu to Granlund moments ago.
Mike Joe knew that Granlund could help out on the power play for many reasons, and that was actually a terrific save by Foss because Granlund got rid of it in a hurry, and he had a lot of power behind that shot.
We'll hear from Michael Russo, but first, Kevin Gord with the goal scorer, Nino Niederreiter. Wild 1, Oilers 0 after 1 in Edmonton. Tino Niederreiter with the game's only goal. Wild 1, Oilers 0. After one, our Sanford Health injury report. A couple of guys with ties to the state of hockey out for a while.
Yeah, Eric Johnson, obviously that affects the Wild because the Wild will play the Colorado Avalanche. Not so much at the Islanders, although Oposo with 14 goals and 44 points this year, a big factor for the Islanders, who are having a very good season. They were able to beat the New York Rangers, their crosstown rivals, earlier today.
Islanders starting the second half tonight in first place in the Metropolitan Division. The win over the Rangers tonight now knocks the Rangers 7 points behind the Islanders. Islanders beat them 4-1. Wild opening the second period on the power play, down to 15 seconds left in the man advantage. And the Oilers able to clear. Good to see Zach Parise back on the ice for Minnesota after taking a puck to the mouth in the first period. Power play over. Suter sends it across, tipped in by Pominville, but the Wild will change. Niederreiter applies pressure. Spurgeon taps it ahead, just too far for Vanek. Niederreiter left alone on front, and his shot is stopped by Foss.
Boy, was he ever.
Vanek tried to center.
That puck got checked right at the last second, went right to him in the slot. That's how he scored his first goal of this game.
Dubnyk plays it behind the net. Scandella to Granlund. Granlund carries ahead for Minnesota. Reaches center and flips it in. Niederreiter in on the forecheck for the Wild. Schultz is there for Edmonton. To Nugent Hopkins, who carries to center. His pass was knocked down by Brodziak. He plays it back into his own zone, and now Schultz with it.
He's goal in the first period on a good forecheck by Justin Fontaine. That one was almost assisted by an Oiler.
Schultz here pinned up against the boards by Brodziak. Roy couldn't come away with it cleanly. Fontaine, who's had a strong game, got it to Brodin. Across to Ryan Suter. Suter waits. Tried to go cross ice, knocked down by Roy. And Roy sends it all the way out. Yakupov catches up with it. Yakupov in, saved by Dubnyk. A big stop by Dubnyk. Brodin took the pass away in the slot.
Well, defensively, Yakupov showed some limitations in that first period on the Niederreiter goal. But offensively, he also shows why they like him and why they picked him. Because his breakaway speed and his ability to create offense is pretty amazing.
The number 1 overall pick had a big rookie season, 31 points in 48 games in the lockout shortened season. But since then, he hasn't scored much. 100 games over the last 2 years and 1 fewer goal than he had in a shortened rookie season.
So right here picks up a loose puck, nice fresh ice, and he tries to go 5-hole. Dubnyk just locks it down. But yeah, Yakupov, well, like a few of the talented young Oiler forwards, got to learn both sides of the puck if you're going to be successful.
Saw his rating this year, minus 21, among the worst in the league. Since he came in the league in 2012, 2013, he has the worst plus-minus rating in hockey, minus 58. Petrie back in his own zone, ahead for Frazier. And the Oilers hit the Minnesota line 3-on-3. A pass too far for Lander. Turned back to the wall. Niederreiter took a hit as he played it ahead. Carter deflected it, but not out of the zone. Poland back to pick it up for Minnesota. Prosser hammered up against the wall. Ferentz holds the zone for Edmonton. Niederreiter couldn't get it past Petrie. Threw it right out front of his own net. It goes all the way across where Carter has Ferentz tied up. And now Prosser for Minnesota lost one in the air to center ice. Wild trying to get a change. This, of course, the long change, second period. Gordon tips to the Minnesota line. Prosser there for the Wild. Off the glass to Pominville, across for Zucker. Zucker into the offensive zone, drops to Koivu. Captain jumped around one check, couldn't get past another. Scandella holds his own. Spurgeon pinches in to hold on the far side. His pass finds Scandella at the half wall, drops to Zucker. Zucker fires, and it's tipped on goal. Koivu then deflects to the wall. Plays it in behind, hoping to get it to Zucker. It was intercepted by Fane, and the Oilers finally able to gain control. Gazdic lost it at the Minnesota line. Koivu ahead behind Pominville, but he relays it in. Back out, now back into the Minnesota zone. Pouliot puts on the brakes, fires from long range. Knocked down by Dubnyk. Clickhammer trying to find the handle on the loose puck. Held by Nugent Hopkins. Into the corner. Pominville over for Minnesota, but we get a whistle. Puck from long range. Knocked down by Dubnyk. Clickhammer trying to find the handle on the loose puck. Held by Nugent Hopkins. Into the corner. Pominville over for Minnesota, but we get a whistle. Looks like Dubnyk is shaking up in the Minnesota crease.
I thought I heard Mike, but it might have just caught his shoulder as it went up and then up into the net. It's a good, quick, hard shot. Yeah, it looks like it caught the top of his shoulder and then maybe some crossbar. And I can tell you from experience that hurts. Catches it up in the collarbone area.
Brodin for Minnesota. Up the boards. Parisi at neutral ice. Wild have been very good on the face-off circle so far tonight. They were +5 in the first period. Everly works his way to the Minnesota zone. Flips it backhander wide. Schultz holds the zone. His shot knocked down by Brodin. And the Wild able to clear. Schultz back to pick it up for the Oilers. Watched by Parisi. There's a crossword puck bomb, and now Everly at center. Everly gets one through for Nugent Hopkins. Into the offensive zone. A shot goes high and wide by Pouliot. Petrie holds the zone. A centering pass knocked down by Parisi. Couldn't get it by Petrie. Petrie flips it out front. Shooter knocks it down. Bannock to Parisi, and the Wild come to center. Parisi across to Granlund. It was broken up by Petrie, who then crushes Granlund. Shooter to Parisi for a drive that goes wide. And the rebound is out of play.
Granlund just gets crunched along the boards, and he had no support behind him, like the glass, to help support him. So his back basically goes right into the dasher and gets bent into the bench. Got to protect yourself, and Granlund right there was making a play. Good to see he is what appears to be no worse for the wear. Don't want to lose him for another extended period of time.
Draw controlled by the Oilers. The bench.
Got to protect yourself.
And Granlund right there
40 minutes, 56
making a play.
seconds of 1 hour, 37 minutes, 56
Good to see he is
during that
what appears to be no worse for the wear.
54.
Don't lose him for another extended period of time.
5,876.
Draw controlled by the Oilers. Nikitin up the wall for Hendricks. Fontaine hustles over to hold the zone for Minnesota. Fraser had it caught in his skates. Pressured by Scandella. The Oilers send it all the way down. Icing waved off. That forces Dubnyk to play. And he gives to Spurgeon. Spurgeon's pass to Fontaine. Fontaine goes across to Scandella. In with speed, but then offside. And we get a whistle to send that the Oilers club has had great opportunities through the draft. In fact, over the last 8 years, 7 times they've picked in the top 10. Their average first-round position, the lowest in the National Hockey League. 3 times they had the number 1 overall pick, 2010, 11, and 12. You look at Craig McTavish, and one of those top picks, Taylor Hall, is on the lineup tonight. There's another, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
They cornered the market on first-rounders, that's for sure. But now you have to find a way to get them to play all the same way, in the same system.
Just unbelievable to have the number 1 overall pick 3 consecutive years. This year they're certainly in the hunt, and it could end up being 4 times in a 6-year span that they'd have the top selection. Prosser waits, fires off the end boards. Coyle tried to center, and Fost doesn't like the traffic, so he hangs on. Wild on top, 1-0 in Edmonton. No question about it, Jamie. And the Wild will need some help, no doubt, down the stretch.
Unfortunately, the Avalanche tied it with 20 seconds left and went to overtime, so they'll get a bonus point, if you will.
Wild with plenty of opportunities against these teams in front of them in the Western Conference race throughout the second half. Mike Yeo talked about that today, said, we've dug ourselves a hole, there's no question, but there is a lot of season left to be played. Still 36 games on the Wild schedule coming into play tonight. Hendricks drops it back into his own zone. Fane around behind for Nikitin. Hendricks tries to play it up the boards. It deflects by Brodin. Brodin watched by Klinkhammer. One of the new additions here for Edmonton. Hendricks settles it down back in his own zone. And Nikitin drives one into the Wild zone. Everly's there. Pinned up against the boards by Suter. Nugent Hopkins back to Everly. Everly tries to spin out of trouble. Watched by Suter. Plays it in behind the net. Everly takes it back. Out of the point for Klefbom. Klefbom across. Schultz. Nugent Hopkins. Klefbom. Now Parise trying to get it past Nugent Hopkins and does out the center. Schultz back in his own zone. And he leaves it for Klefbom. Schultz tips it into the Wild zone. Spurgeon goes back to recover for Minnesota. A bit of a careful pace here in the second period by each team. Brodziak for Matt Cook. Cook in for the Wild. Drops to Fontaine. Back to Cook. Saved by Foss. On a good scoring chance, and this line continues to thrive for the Wild tonight.
And a good little pass there. I wish Fontaine would have shot that. He tried to hit Cook back on the back door. By that time, he was at such a sharp angle. Really, not a lot of opportunity to put it home. Right here is where the shot should come in, and then let Cook go for the rebound. Instead, it's a little dish pass, and a nice one at that, but just too tight for him to really make it work. Good game so far by Justin Fontaine, who's been very involved.
Fontaine circles the net. Back out to Scandella. His shot deflected. Brodziak had a chance, just couldn't pull the trigger. He's dumped by Ferentz in the corner. Spurgeon holds for Minnesota. Really the secrets to get Fontaine and Brodziak back in Alberta. The two Alberta natives having strong games for the Wild here tonight. Scandella to Fontaine at neutral ice. Flips it in. Foss could not control behind the net. Petrie shoves it around behind. Takes a return pass. His clearing attempt tipped by Coyle and Brodin. This could not handle a bouncing puck, or he would have had a great scoring opportunity. Oilers come to center. Fraser fires it in. Gloved and dropped by Dubnyk. Charlie Coyle back through neutral ice for Minnesota. With Niederreiter into the Edmonton zone. Fired one on goal. Knocked down by Faust. Coyle. Pumped by Roy. Coyle maintains the puck for Minnesota. Out to Brodin. And across to Suter. Suter works his way to the middle. Watched by Purcell. Suter still with the puck. Carries down low. Dumped by Roy. And Roy plays it ahead. The Oilers come back with Purcell. Purcell's pass kicked ahead by Schultz. Schultz is in! Sprawling save by Dubnyk.
Schultz almost got that out of the air on the rebound, and it just bounces by the post. What a burst of speed by Schultz.
Fane fires. That's off the end glass. Suter tips it ahead. Gloves and drops. No hand pass on the play, and Carter comes through neutral ice for Minnesota.
It was inside the zone. If he'd have passed it to him outside the zone, that would have been whistled down.
Oilers set up behind the net. Koivu pressures Roy. And Poland picks up a loose puck for Minnesota. Across to Prosser. And ahead for Koivu. Koivu into the Edmonton zone. Flips it wide of the goal. Pominville tracks it down in the corner to Koivu behind the net. Koivu withstands a hit. Still with it. To Zucker, a backhander pad save by Foss.
A reverse hit, or what we like to call the exploding shoulder there by Mikko Koivu. Gets himself an opportunity with some physical play.
And remarkably quick hands got Zucker a good scoring chance. Moments after Dubnyk stopped Dustin Schultz on the breakaway. Wild still leading 1-0.
A big save by Devin Dubnyk preserves the Minnesota.
And Dubnyk stopped Dustin Schultz on the breakaway. Wild still leading 1-0.
A big save by Devin Dubnyk preserves the Minnesota 1-0 lead. Guys, I chatted with our goaltender this morning about the All-Star break. He said it couldn't have come at a better time. It's been hectic since he got moved to the Minnesota Wild. Got to go back to Arizona. He with his just over 1-year-old baby and his wife, and it really start the process of transferring to Minnesota. The good news is, after this road trip, he will reconnect with his family, and they'll start to settle in Minnesota. And the one thing Dubnyk said is the Minnesota Wild organization has gone above and beyond to help with the logistics, because it really, before the All-Star break, couldn't have been more hectic. And this has been a year and a half where he's been moved all over the league, and he's really looking forward in the second half of the year to showing the Minnesota Wild what he can do. Maybe be the goaltender that can be here in the future.
Kevin, to put in perspective what's happening, he was drafted by Edmonton in 2004. And from that point through March of 2014, so 10 years, he was in the Edmonton organization. Since that time, not even 12 months, he's been traded from Edmonton to Nashville to Montreal, became a free agent, signed with Arizona, then traded to Minnesota.
With some physical play.
And remarkably quick hands got Zucker a good score.
If he just follows through there, he probably doesn't get the call, but it's right at the end that he knocks the feet up with Giordano. So what a chance here early on for the Calgary Flames to ignite their offense with an early power play.
Power play last season was ranked 22nd in the league. Johnny Gaudreau is out on it. Troy Brouwer is a new addition to the power play. Sean Monahan on his 22nd for
the Calgary Flames to ignite their offense with an early power play.
Power play last season was ranked 22nd in the league. Johnny Gaudreau is out on it. Troy Brouwer is a new addition to the power play. Sean Monahan on his 22nd birthday.
And from that
is the centerman, Dougie Hamilton, and Giordano, two defensemen back at the blue line and switch sides. Calgary won the draw. Giordano
for 10 years. He was in the Edmonton organization, then traded to Minnesota. It's been a
boxes and pull out some winter clothes.
Played through neutral ice. Brodin back to pick it up for Minnesota. Think about that, 10 years in one organization, and then in 10 months, he's been with 5 different clubs. Granlund tried to center. Nugent Hopkins to the line. Brodin holds for Minnesota. Granlund knocks it down, leaves to Parise. Parise spins out of trouble. Fire, saved by Foss. And he covers up with Vanek. Brodin holds for Minnesota. Granlund, he's tried to center. Nugent Hopkins to the line. Brodin holds for Minnesota. Granlund knocks it down.
Rebound, chip. Monahan, it's saved to the side of the net. There's another save by a defender. Monahan.
To Parise, up to the Mikko Koivu.
Big saves, but not necessarily by the goaltender. Brandon Davidson made the best one.
And Jim, Johnny Gaudreau will be kicking himself. He's watching it on the big screen now. He's got himself a tap in. If he doesn't celebrate what he thinks is a goal, he thinks this rebound is going in. Look, he's got his stick in the air. He followed it in. He created the rebound, stick in the air, and the puck's right there. And it heads up Brandon Davidson on one knee, able to get to that puck before Gaudreau did, and he's disappointed with himself right now.
Smart Explorer dialogue.
Pretty good looking power play so far. They'll turn it over to a second unit. TJ Brody. On the other side.
Followed it in. He created the rebound, stick in the air, and the puck's right there. And it heads up Brandon Davidson on one knee, able to get to that puck before Gaudreau did, and he's disappointed with himself right now.
Pretty good looking power play so far. They'll turn it over to a second unit. TJ Brody.
Center, nobody home for the Oilers. Vanek turns it over.
Good shot. Wow. Nearby.
Fire, saved by Foss.
Image and Smart
And he
Explorer
covers up with Vanek and Gordy's nearby.
Let's go back to this Mikko Koivu play behind the net. This is the Mikko Koivu that we definitely want to see. He knows he's getting pressure, and he just sits Pouliot right to the ice. Another first rounder for the Minnesota Wild. Former And Toiler gets a nice little play out front. Good shot on goal because of it. Wild have allowed only 9. They're 25th in the league. Just under 28 per night. Everly, escape shooter. He's hit by Granlund. Center, nobody home for the Oilers. Bannock turns it over. Schultz plays down low. Nugent Hopkins to Everly. Everly in the corner. Out to the point for Schultz. Schultz fires. It's deflected wide. Nugent Hopkins is there. Ryan Nugent Hopkins, middle of the 3 consecutive #1 overall picks for Edmonton. He was the top selection in the 2011 draft. Left bomb back to pick it up for Edmonton. Left bomb watched by Fontaine.
They don't get a lot of chances, as you mentioned, but the Wild have to be careful. Neutral zone, obviously, and also near their own blue line. They didn't get the puck out on that last exchange, and it cost them some time in their own zone. They have dynamic forwards. When they do get chances, they certainly have the talent to put the puck in the net.
Ference trying to escape Matt Cook, plays it ahead. Brodziak catches up with a loose puck at neutral ice. Sends it across for Cook. Cook fights through a check by Petrie. Cook centered for Fontaine. Deflected away by Ference. Gazdic at center. Dumps it in. He was able to avoid a Folin hit. Prosser blasted into the wall. Oilers gain the zone with Petrie. Watched by Cook. Plays it across to Ference. His shot broken up out front by Folin. It's loose, and finally Matt Cook finds it. Could not clear. Petrie holds. Brodziak blocked it with his hand. A chance for Landers, but that windup flies up wide of the goal. Lander tied up along the wall by Brodziak. Prosser has it there for Minnesota. Gazdic pins him up against the boards. Lander centers, and Dubnyk doesn't like the traffic and will cover. Face off in the Wild zone, still 1-0 Minnesota.
Mikael Granlund seeing some
Face off in the Wild zone, still 1-0 Minnesota.
Mikael Granlund seeing some things that I do like in his game so far. Nice little pass here. That's how line mate Zach Parise setting plays up. I love this right here. Getting in there and getting involved. That's what Granlund needs to do, and I like this as well. Shooting the puck. It's something Granlund needs to do, but this I don't like. Granlund needs to be very careful about protecting himself. He's quite often put himself into situations, and granted, he was trying to make a play, but you've got to be very conscious of the fact that players are going to try and unload on you when you're a talented player like that. He got out of that one unscathed.
Niederreiter plays it out to Spurgeon. His shot blocked. The puck loose for a moment, now controlled by Edmonton. Mercer sends a cross for Yakupov. He drops to Derek Roy. Roy back to Yakupov. Scandella tips to the wall. Mercer plays to the point. Puck bomb held the zone. Yakupov has it poked away by Spurgeon. Carter shovels it off the boards and out to neutral ice. Oilers dump it right back in. Roy battling with Scandella behind the Minnesota goal. That tussle finally results in Scandella with the puck. Carter across for Spurgeon. Spurgeon reaches center, dumps it in for the Wild. Voss tied up by Carter behind the net. Carter comes away with the puck, trying to get it to Koivu, but that was broken up by Everly.
A lot of good plays here by the Wild on the forecheck. It's something Mike Gill wants to see. No hesitation, and the Wild are creating offensive chances because of it.
Experience an ultimate day of Minnesota sports by joining Fox Sports North, along with executives from the Twins, Vikings, Wild, and Wolves on Saturday for the Special Olympics Minnesota Polar Plunge in White Bear Lake. For more information on how you can plunge with this group and join them for the Wolves and Cavaliers game later that evening, visit plungemn.org. Unfortunately, we will be in Vancouver and won't be able to take part. You can jump in the bay if you want. I'll be happy to videotape it.
Wow, it's going to be like 50 degrees. That's not even a challenge.
Koivu plays it ahead. Hollandville fights through a check. Got it to Zucker. Zucker into the Edmonton zone. Spins away from Petrie. Whacks it in behind. It was just too hot to handle for Pominville. And Pouliot starts back the other way. Pouliot works his way around Suter. Pouliot in. Dropped it back for the win. Savage and Everly dumps it in for the Wild.
Wild on the forecheck. It's something Mike Yeo wants. A lot of good plays here by the Wild on the forecheck. It's something Mike Yeo wants to see. No hesitation. And the Wild are creating offensive chances because of it.
Experience an ultimate day of Minnesota sports by joining Fox Sports North along with executives from the Twins, Vikings, Wild, and Wolves on Saturday for the Special Olympics Minnesota Forward Plunge in White Bear Lake. For more information on how you can plunge with this group and join them for the Wolves and Cavaliers game later that evening, visit this with executives from the Twins, Vikings, Wild, and Wolves on Saturday for the Special Olympics Minnesota Forward Plunge in White Bear Lake. For more information on how you can plunge with this group and join them for the Wolves and Cavaliers game later that evening, visit plungemn.org. Olympics Minnesota Forward Plunge in White Bear Lake. For more information on how you can plunge with this group and join them for the Wolves and Cavaliers game later that evening, visit plungemn.org.
7 minutes, 56 seconds.
Unfortunately, we will be in Vancouver and won't be able to take part. You can jump in the bay if you want. I'll be happy to videotape it.
What? It's going to be like 50 degrees. That's
55 minutes, 45.
Move back and the Wild clear. Would have been icing. Granlund gains the closest man of the through neutral ice. Spurgeon back for Minnesota. Granlund gains control of the puck to the Wild. Granlund to Bertuzzi. He gives to Bennett the shot. Saved by Fox. Tried to go to the point for Scandella. He's tied up along the boards. Scandella now has it. Winds and fires right on. Saved by Fox. Bertuzzi couldn't get the rebound handled cleanly. Scandella thought wisely against the pass across to Spurgeon, but now the Oilers are in with Pouliot. Has it knocked away by Scandella, trying to clear from his backside, and it's poked out by Vanek. Clefbaum back for Edmonton. Schultz now has it. Tape to tape through neutral ice. Klinkhammer in for the Oilers. Clefbaum circles the net. The defenseman goes out high for Schultz. Hendricks back across for Clefbaum. Clefbaum sends it to an open corner. Hendricks is there. The former Blaine star played in the state high school hockey championships for the Bengals. And here the Oilers score. Gordon threw it out. Hendricks back across for Clefbaum. Schultz now has it. Clefbaum circles the net. The defenseman.
Upload to YouTube region. Goal. YouTube video.
Goes out high for Schultz.
Image magnifying is finished with
Hendricks.
56 minutes.
Back across for Clefbaum. Clefbaum sends it to an open corner. Hendricks is there. The former Blaine star played in the state high school hockey championship. Go Minnesota line. Lander and it poked away by Suter. Zucker into the Edmonton zone. Trying to corral a pass that was behind him. He gets it to Pominville. Pominville back to Zucker. Zucker lost the handle as he tried to cut to the slot. Taken away by Pouliot, and then Lander plays it out to center. Koivu intercepts a pass at center. Spurgeon pokes it to the corner for Minnesota with 95 seconds left in the period. Fraser out to center ice. Spurgeon goes back to recover for Minnesota. Chased by Hendricks. His long pass. Pominville was able to tip it, so icing's waved off. Petrie wheels back the other way for Edmonton. Plays it ahead to Fraser. Fraser centers, looking for Petrie. That was intercepted. Bertuzzi's pass picked off by Nugent Hopkins. Petrie dumped by Poland as he played it into the Minnesota zone. Poland ahead at center, knocked down there by Petrie, but intercepted by Poland. Choppy play here late in the period. Nugent Hopkins drops to Pouliot. Nugent Hopkins has it back. Trying to escape Poland in the corner. Centers Everly. Spins away from Granlund. To Nugent Hopkins a shot. And that hit escape lines up in the corner. Pouliot.
See the instant confidence here that built from that goal that the Oilers scored. It wasn't a pretty one, but it tied the game, and now the Oilers have a little pressure.
Everly along the half boards. Back to Schultz. Everly tips to the corner. Granlund plays to the boards. Nugent Hopkins there. He and Granlund battling for a puck. Nugent Hopkins plays to the corner for Pouliot. A lot of time in the offensive zone for the Oilers. Schultz down low. His pass out of the reach of Nugent Hopkins and all the way back down, which should bring us to the end of the second period. A period that sees the Oilers manage only a handful of shots on goal and gain the tying goal. Our puck that deflects in. Our window counts us game reset.
Well, the Wild had a lot of pressure in the offensive zone in the first period. Not to say that they didn't in the second, but they certainly didn't have as much. They weren't dominating as much as they did in the first. See if they can find that back here in the third period, because the Oilers are a team that they have to beat.
We'll head back to Mall of America studio. The thoughts on the first two periods from Les Walls. And up next, Kevin Gord with Justin Fontaine. 1-1 after 2 in Edmonton.
Goals from 1 hours, 1 hour,
very
current value,
20 minutes for the Minnesota Wild.
Minimum value 0,
They
maximum
open
value
even with the Oilers.
5,876.
One apiece.
1 hour, 0 minutes, 50. 1 hour,
Even
1
with the
hour, 1
Oilers.
minute, 1 hour,
One
1 minute,
apiece.
1 hour, 1 minute, 4 seconds, 1 hour, 37 minutes, 56 seconds.
Zucker at center ice, and now Koivu supports for Minnesota. Play comes back into the Wild zone, and Scandella to Spurgeon. Pominville redirects through neutral ice. Pominville intercepts a clearing attempt. His shot was deflected by Nikitin wide. Zucker tried to play to the corner, intercepted there by Klinkhammer. His pass hit Hendrickson to skate. Nikitin lost it to Spurgeon, got a piece of it. Zucker carries in for Minnesota. Wild were changing, so Zucker just sends it around behind. Suter holds his own for the Wild. Sidestep to Klinkhammer hit. Gordon, who has the only goal for Edmonton, lost it to Pominville for a moment. Now Suter holds his own. His shot deflects on goal. Nikitin, who's there to deflect. Oilers clear, and this will be icing against Edmonton. Let's check in with Kevin Gord.
1 hour,
Nikitin, who's there to deflect. Shot for Edmonton. Lost it to Pominville for a moment. Now Suter holds his own. His shot deflected.
1 hour.
Nikitin, who's there to deflect. Oilers clear, and this will be icing against Edmonton. Let's check in with Kevin Gord.
Yeah, Anthony had a chance to talk to Darby Hendrickson, one of the Wild assistant coaches, during that intermission, about the message to the team. And, they like the matchup on the wall against Edmonton. They respect their speed and skill, but said they've got to sustain forechecks by doing a better job in those one-on-one battles in the attacking zone to sustain a forecheck. The longer you keep the Oilers in the zone, the more the breakdowns happen, and obviously the more looks you're going to get at the net. We'll see if the Wild can do that, like Mike Greenway mentioned they did in the first period.
A lot of good forechecks and a lot of good turnovers created by those forechecks for the Minnesota Wild. That's how they got their goal. A good forecheck created the turnover. Niederreiter put it home. We saw a couple of instances like that in the second as well. But it needs to be consistent, and it has to culminate in a scoring chance and hopefully a goal, because the Wild need to start putting points up on the board here.
Here's a chance out front. Dubnyk stops Nugent Hopkins.
My goodness. That was too close for comfort.
Parise's pass intercepted. Pouliot whips it across for Everly. Everly in for Edmonton. Drops it back to Nugent Hopkins. A shot saved by Dubnyk.
That's a second miscue in the game by Dubnyk behind his own net. One of them occurred in the first, the other here in the third. So that end of the ice giving him some trouble. And right now tried to sweep the puck around behind the net. Now obviously with the trapezoid, the only place he could play the puck behind the net, he was trying to make a play without going into the corner and getting a penalty. So that sweeping motion didn't work for him. He got out of that one just like he did in the first. So has to be careful.
Frazier trying to get it to Lander behind the net. Spurgeon ducks underneath his check. Laid it up the board. Fontaine back to Brodziak. Cook tied up. Lander has it in the high slot. Handed it off to Frazier. He rifled one wide. Radziak trying to force it past Petrie. He does. Fontaine ahead for Cook. Fontaine breaks for the net. Cook to Fontaine. He could not redirect. Another brilliant scoring chance for this combination for Minnesota. Scandella back for the Wild.
Well, Fontaine has been all over the puck, and Matt Cook has been very visible as well. Unable to finish, but still getting good looks here.
Prosser is down after being hit by Yakupov behind the net. He's very slow to his feet. And we'll get a whistle as Carter gains control of the puck. Prosser was, slammed hard into the end boards by the net. He's very slow to his feet.
1 hour.
And by Yakupov behind the net. He's very slow to his feet. And we'll get a whistle as Carter gains control of the puck. Prosser was, slammed hard into the end boards by Yakupov.
Don't know whether it was his head or his shoulder, but either way, he was put in very heavily into the end wall. Behind the net, Prosser goes to make the play, and he gets pinched up against that stanchion, actually. When you hit the glass, you might slide a little bit. You might actually bounce off of it, but you catch a piece of that stanchion, sometimes it'll grab you. Looks like he got pinned pretty good, even though that stanchion doesn't come out very far. And when your sweater goes up against it, sometimes it pinches you pretty hard up against there, and it looks like he took the brunt of that up in the shoulder area.
Looked like his head may have snapped into the glass on the play. Memorial on the draw for Minnesota results in a chance for Edmonton. Watch this again and watch his head snap against the glass.
Good push there. Yeah, you see the glass actually come apart briefly. But yeah, it was a very solid and a clean hit. I gotta say, it looked pretty clean. Yakupov put his shoulder into Prosser, but it was one of the
Mike Yo was asked about that today during morning skate, asked about the versatility that Biffle brings, allowing Minnesota to basically have an extra forward and an extra defenseman in one body.
1 hour, 47 minutes.
Suter goes back for Minnesota. Up the wall and out. Comes to center. Nikita Nikitin back to pick it up for the Oilers. Here's cross-ice pass. Turned back the other way by Brodin. Pominville relays it in. Zucker looks for Koivu. Drops it to the captain who plays in behind. Pominville lets it go by. Thinking Spurgeon was at the point. He had just come over the boards on a change. Scandella back for the Wild. Ahead to Jared Spurgeon. And Spurgeon sends one high in the air. Knocked down there. And turned back the other way by Schultz. Pouliot trying to catch up with it. Parisi taps it back into his own zone. And Spurgeon has it there for Minnesota. Mikhail Granlund at center. Gives to Parisi. Back to Granlund. Intercepted by Schultz. And the Oilers start it back. Everly, 9 points in his last 10 games. Dumps it into the Minnesota zone. Spurgeon up the boards for Vanek. He's tied up by Klefbom. Granlund there to protect. Plays it safely back to Spurgeon and then to Scandella. Spurgeon skate to stick. Flips one through for Granlund. Granlund in! Saved by Fost.
Oh, Mikhail Granlund is starting to show the signs that we all knew that were in him. Just couldn't get that one to go. He's had a couple of very good chances in this game. Spurgeon, great heads-up play there, just landing it at his feet. Fost was able to get across, challenge, and take away the top of the net. Doesn't appear to have any strength problems with his wrist. The shots he's put on goal have been very strong in this game. He's also been strong in the faceoff circle in terms of power.
Radziak settles it down.
One chances that were in Granlund is starting to show the signs that we all knew that were in him. Just couldn't get that one to go. He's had a couple of very good chances in this game. Spurgeon, great heads-up play there, just landing it at his feet.
Magnified his finish with it.
Was able to
8 minutes, 4 seconds at 1 hour, 37 minutes, 56 seconds.
Doesn't appear to have any strength problems with his wrist. The shots he's put on goal have been very strong in this game. He's also been strong in the faceoff circle in terms of power.
Radziak settles it down along the boards. Fontaine goes to Matt Cook. Cook with a backhander just wide. Every shift, it's a scoring chance for this Cook-Brodziak-Fontaine line. Bolin holds for Minnesota. A shot saved by Foss. And the rebound back the other way for the Oilers. Purcell dumps it into the Minnesota zone. Bolin back to pick it up. Pinched up against the wall. Purcell centers. Yakupov with a shot. And a save by Dubnyk.
Well, Yakupov is to get his game going. Physical. He's had a couple of good chances. He had that breakaway and able to score on that one. He's got a couple of good chances in this game after getting his pocket picked by Fontaine in the first period. That led to the Wild goal. But Yakupov starting to find the offensive side here.
Schultz plays to Eberle. Eberle walks out front. He's stopped by Dubnyk. And Dubnyk covers the puck. Carter didn't like the extra whack taken by Eberle on the play. Referees have it under control. Grab your crew and win a trip to the Daytona 500 with the Fox Sports Girls for you and your friends. Upload 2 photos of you and your crew at foxsports.com/grabyourcrew for a chance to head to the Daytona 500. Draw here coming in the Minnesota zone. The Oilers have had a few more chances here early in the third than they had through the first 2 periods. At 11 shots through 2. They have 5 in the first 4.5 minutes of the third. Scandella with a long pass, just too far for Pominville. Pominville able to deflect in the corner. Sends it around where Scandella pinches in. He drops to Koivu. Koivu across to Spurgeon. Spurgeon winds and fires. It's wide. Scandella, a little miscommunication between he and Koivu, and the puck comes out the center. Spurgeon plays it cross ice. He sends Koivu in. Koivu around behind the net for Pominville. Pominville tried to play it for Zucker. That was broken up. Koivu has it. His shot hit a skate, winds up in the corner. Pominville fires, knocked down by Foss. Hendricks comes to center for Edmonton. His long one knocked down by Dubnyk. And Suter starts it back for Minnesota as the Wild change. Suter to Granlund. Granlund into the offensive zone. Finds Vanek, and Vanek couldn't handle it cleanly. Get behind. Schultz has Granlund tied up. Eberle in the corner. Now Parise with it for Minnesota. Parise working on a 4-game goal-scoring streak. 7th time in his career that he scored a goal in 4 consecutive games. Pouliot pokes it into the Minnesota zone. His shot hit the side of the net. Eberle bumped by Granlund in the corner. Eberle withstands that hit. Works his way out front. Centered it. All the way through to the point. Schultz up high. Klefbom. He gives to Eberle. Back to Klefbom. His shot looking for a tip. Made it through to Dubnyk. And he hangs on. 6.5 into the third. Wild and Oilers tied at 1. Minnesota gets caught up. Minnesota scored first. Nino Niederreiter. His shot looking for a tip. Made it through to Dubnyk. And he hangs on. 6.5 into the third. Wild and Oilers tied at 1. Minnesota get caught up. Minnesota scored first. Nino Niederreiter snapping a 17-game string without a goal to put the Wild in front 1-0, and then Boyd Gordon off the sleeve of Brodziak and behind Dubnyk to tie the game at 1 late in the second period. That's where we stand. 6.5 minutes into the third.
The Oilers are closing the gap in the shot department too. Wild had really opened up a pretty good margin in that department. 10 shots in the first, 9 in the second.
That's the first face-off win of the third period by Minnesota. The Oilers are taking control there as well. We've got a penalty coming here. Spurgeon holds for Minnesota. The Wild will get a power play. Cook to Fontaine. Fontaine spins away from trouble. Still with the puck. He's knocked down, and as Yakupov gains control, we get the whistle. And the Wild. Fontaine spins away from trouble. Still with the puck. He's knocked down.
Seconds of 1 hour.
Put it into the net. but the one over top of the glass.
You saw the try to jump in the crowd. I think the fans thought that one was going in. And really had a tough play to make. They do a little kick out
really
here,
has
and you
been
got to have a lot of weight on that bottom hand to try to trap it hard enough to get it back the other way. You can see it just rolled. An excellent saucer pass that just a little too high. It gets the top third of the blade of Pouliot, and he's not able to get enough on it. Look at that blade there. And he's got a little bit of an upshoot, too. And that catapulted that puck up and out of play, which is why the faceoff is outside.
53 seconds left in the penalty. Giordano, and McDavid comes back on here.
In this
Not
case,
get it back the other way, and you can see it just rolled. An excellent saucer pass that just a little too high, and it gets the top third of the blade of Pouliot, and he's not able to get enough on. Look at that blade there, and he's got a little bit of an upshoot too, and that catapulted that puck up and out of play, which is why the faceoff is outside.
53 seconds left in the penalty. Giordano, and McDavid comes back on here. The try side of the puck.
Played there. Pouliot a tough
zone. Parisi have an opportunity here.
Remember, the Wild did not have Zach Parisi. He was getting his face repaired after a puck to the mouth in the first period. Collinville to Parisi into the offensive zone. Back out to Super.
Okay, one thing for the Minnesota Wild.
And as Yakupov gains control, we get the whistle. And the Wild will head to the power play.
This line really has been effective for the Minnesota Wild, getting chances, and now drawing a penalty. Matt Cook gets in on the forecheck. Once again, another good forecheck creates either a chance or draws a penalty or keeps the puck into the zone. And the Wild, in this case, have an opportunity here. Only two shots in this period.
Second power play for Minnesota in this game. Did not score on the
Two shots in this period.
second power play for Minnesota in this game. Did not score on the first. Collinville cannot hold. The puck comes all the way down. First power play, remember, the Wild did not have Zach Parisi. He was his face repaired after a puck to the mouth in the first period. Collinville to Parisi into the offensive zone. Back out to Suter. Suter and Palmerville at the points. Koivu, Bannock, Parisi up front. Palmerville shot deflected wide. Bannock cannot control. And it comes back into Minnesota territory. Dubnyk will leave it there for Suter. Minute 22 remaining in the Wild power play. Suter to Koivu. Through traffic. Got it to Bannock. Bannock off the heel of his stick and into the corner. Klefbom is there. Ferentz able to play it ahead. Pouliot. And Nugent Hopkins carries it in shorthanded for the Oilers. His shot goes over the top of the goal. Parisi settles it down there for Minnesota to Pominville. Tried to go skate the stick at center. And the Oilers clear again halfway through the power play. Ryan Suter turns it back for Minnesota. Suter dumps it in as the Wild change. Now it's Niederreiter, Zucker up front for Minnesota along with Granlund. Zucker plays it along the wall. Pouliot able to get it by Spurgeon and all the way down. Wild hoping for better things from their second power play unit. They haven't had a goal scored by one of these guys on the power play since back in mid-December when Charlie Coyle scored against Philadelphia. Niederreiter pushes it up the boards for Spurgeon. Now Zucker in behind. Out to the point, Brodin. Brodin gives to Spurgeon. Spurgeon looks, waits, still with it. Back up high for Brodin. Brodin a shot. Glove saved by Foss.
A little bit of traffic, but maybe not enough. Good setup, good shot by Brodin. But Foss was able to pick that one out of the air. You see, Niederreiter stepped right across the line of sight of Foss, which can be effective, but if you spend a little bit longer in front of his vision, it makes it that much more difficult. Foss made a couple of good saves.
Mike Yo had just inserted Marco Scandella on the blue line there. The Wild won the draw. But Granlund's pass back for Scandella was just off the mark. Niederreiter here fires on goal and a save by Fost with just over 11 minutes left. And the Oilers now back at full strength. All rights to the broadcast are reserved. Any rebroadcast, recording, retransmission, telecommunication to the public, or other unauthorized use of the broadcast without the express written permission of the Minnesota Wild is prohibited. Offensive zone draw for the Wild. Brodziak against Gordon. Oilers prohibited. Broadcast without the express written permission of the Minnesota Wild is prohibited.
Draisaitl and Lucic with him. Jordan Eberle and Andre.
October.
First is a flame. Short. McDavid. Here attack. Penalty and Edmonton's right
At full speed went McDavid in the goal came up.
interference penalty and Edmonton's right back on the power play, which means Calgary's right back on its penalty kill.
I haven't seen too many guys that are not afraid to go into traffic like that. I mean, Pat Kane likes to put the puck into an area and try to get around you. Connor McDavid wants to put the foot on the gas pedal and just go right through you and hope that he can push the puck through and make something happen through you to go into traffic like that. I mean, Pat Kane likes to put the puck into an area and try to get around you. Connor McDavid wants to put the foot on the gas pedal and just go right through you and hope that he can push the puck through and make something happen.
Gordon cannot get it by Brodziak along the wild. Oilers control. Gordon cannot get it by Brodziak along the wall. Brodziak takes a hit in the corner, maintains the puck. Try to get it to Cook. It's just out of his reach. Fontaine ducks under Eberle's check. Plays it in behind. Gordon and Cook tangle there. Schultz to Eberle. Eberle could not clear. Scandella holds his own. Fontaine with it. Plays it off the boards. Deeper in the Edmonton zone. But now the Oilers clear. Eberle hustling after it, but Spurgeon's there first for Minnesota. Spurgeon races back the other way for Minnesota. Fires it in from center. Fost sets it up behind the net, and Nugent Hopkins has it. Able to play it past Parise, intercepted there by Koivu. Koivu to Pominville, who's back in for Minnesota. Pominville wide, fires, and it was deflected wide by Fox. Petrie in the corner. Parise pokes it to Pominville. Now to Koivu. Koivu centered. Parise with a tip just wide. Pominville has it. Out to the point, Brodin. Brodin recovers the puck and fires. Saved by Foss. And the rebound just out of the reach of Pominville. Now to Brodin again. Back down low, Pominville. Koivu looking, waiting, fires. It hit Parise's skate and winds up on the far wall. Eberle clears to center.
Both Parise and Koivu with great opportunities in front with deflections. Parise's trickled by the post. Koivu deflected it down and it kind of rattled in between the wickets of Foss, but did not go in.
Spurgeon to Scandella, who starts back. Scandella lost it. It's a 2-on-1 for Edmonton. Yakupov to Purcell. Saved by Dubnyk sliding across. Here's Vanek back in for Minnesota. Vanek fakes the shot. Went to Zucker. He was tied up and couldn't get a shot away. Vanek up against the end wall. Drops to Granlund. He was tied up as he tried to pull the trigger out front. Scandella to Suter. And now Scandella plays it ahead for Niederreiter. Niederreiter sends Zucker in. Zucker around Fane. Tied up, centered it. Just out of the reach of Granlund. Suter lays down low. Granlund pinned up against the boards by Fane. Granlund goes down. Puck somewhere underneath him. No whistle coming yet. Niederreiter finally had the puck for a moment. Then he's tied up again by Lander. Granlund out to the point for Brodin. Couldn't handle it cleanly. Brodin has it taken away by Pouliot, who then fires wide. Carter tips it off the boards for Niederreiter. Niederreiter for Coyle, just out of his reach. Icing waved off. Klefbom back to pick it up. Long stretch without a whistle. Chances at each end. 8 minutes left in Edmonton. Scandella for Carter. Just outside at the line. He's then bumped off the puck, and Gordon's back for the Oilers. Puck sends it in behind his net. Long pass. Hendricks catches up with it in the Minnesota zone. He's wiped out by Scandella in the corner. Hendricks back on his feet. Hendricks hustling there with Scandella. Fontaine joins the fight for Minnesota. And the loose puck scooped up by Spurgeon. Spurgeon for Minnesota. Across to Fontaine. Fontaine into the Edmonton zone. Waits for support. Fires toward the net. And it's gloved and held by Victor Foss. Couple of great chances for Edmonton, including this 2-on-1. We're still even at 1. 1-1 tie. Held. We're still even at 1. 1-1 tie in Edmonton between the Wild and the Oilers. Or Jimmy John's delivery of the game.
Well, this line has had great pressure. Haven't scored, although Fontaine did get an assist on the Niederreiter goal, but they have come very close. Both trying to find each other. Brodziak in the mix as well. Just could not get the puck on net or by Foss, but they have drawn penalties, and they've been very effective in the offensive zone.
Icing here.
The mix is up there. Well, just could not get the puck on net or by Foss, but they have drawn penalties, and they've been very effective in the offensive zone.
Out of nothing. Calgary will be penalized once again. An interference call as McDavid not consisting the defenseman at the very end. That last push by Hamilton tried to make it look inconspicuous, but into the net at full speed went McDavid and the arm came up. Interference penalty, and Edmonton's right back on the power play, which means Calgary's right back on its penalty kill.
I haven't seen too many guys that are not afraid to go into traffic like that. I mean, Pat Kane likes to put the puck into an area and try to get around you. Connor McDavid wants to put the foot on the gas pedal and just go right through you and hope that he can push the puck through and make something happen. Gas pedal and go right through you.
For Canada to help us 5 minutes. Well, this game opened up here in the last 5 minutes.
Edmonton zone.
Well, this game opened up here in the last 5 minutes. Wild getting some good chances, although they did give up a couple of looks because of the way they're pressing.
Brody tees it up and blasts one on goal. Another save by Foss, his 26th stop of the night.
The Wild at least have brought back some pressure on Foss. They started the period a little bit slow, able to bring back some pressure around the net in the offensive zone as well.
Offensive zone drawn for the Wild. Koivu kicked out of the circle. Pominville takes his spot. And the loose puck controlled by Edmonton. Klinkhammer comes to center ice and dumps it in. Hendricks pursues. Brodin plays it ahead for Minnesota. And it's all the way down. Icing will be called against the Wild. Great clips. Binks pursues. Brodin plays it ahead to center ice and dumps it in. Hendricks pursues. Brodin plays it ahead for Minnesota, and it's all the way down. Icing will be called against the Wild. Great clips from around the league. We head to Calgary, where the Wild will play Thursday night. Tonight, the Flames at home against Buffalo, and Josh Juris with the first goal for Calgary. That tied it at 1. The Flames go on to win it by a final score of 4-1 after an early power play goal for the Sabres. Calgary continuing their solid season this year. Now sitting at 55 points, even with Vancouver, for third place in the Pacific Division.
I don't know if people expected them to have this kind of season, but nobody told Calgary. They are a hard-working team, getting as much as they can out of every player. Continue to win.
Spurgeon tied up in the corner by Nugent Hopkins. And now we'll have to come back and retrieve a puck at the Minnesota blue line. Across to Marco Scandella. Off the wall and out to neutral ice. This Edmonton club will give you opportunities if you pressure them. They give the puck away at an alarming rate. They're 4th in the league over the course of the season. averaging more than 10 giveaways a game, and that's been doubled tonight. They've given it away 20 times. Everly here got it to Yakupov, and the centering pass is pushed just wide by Schultz. He had most of an empty net in which to shoot. Here got it to Yakupov, and the centering pass. More than 10 giveaways a game, and that's been doubled tonight. They've given it away 20 times. Everly here got it to Yakupov, and the centering pass is pushed just wide by Schultz. He has doubled tonight. They've given it away 20 times. Everly here got it to Yakupov, and the centering pass is pushed just wide by Schultz. He had most of an empty net in which to shoot.
Well, he's had
back in his own zone.
Schultz has had 2 great opportunities in this game as a defenseman. He had a breakaway, and right there in the offensive zone on the doorstep on a great setup by Yakupov, couldn't get it to go.
Here he's into the Minnesota zone, fires, blocker saved by Dubnyk. And Suter goes to Vanek, across for Zucker. Zucker plays down low. Vanek's the first man there for Minnesota. Suter's deep in the offensive zone. Granlund fires, saved by Foss. Loose puck, and Petrie finds it for Edmonton. Off the glass, not out of the zone, but Roy will carry to center. Boy, Granlund had some chances tonight for a while.
Great chances, too. High-quality scoring chances on his shots. And this one, a one-timer that didn't go. That one was point blank.
Petrie, last one off the end glass. Everly, centers. A chance for Fraser, and he's set high and wide. Zucker controls for Minnesota. Flips it by Petrie. Jumps around one check, but couldn't escape the second. And Lander is back the other way. Got it to Everly. His pass intercepted. Charlie Coyle in for Minnesota. Coyle to the backhand. He scores! To Everly. His pass intercepted. Charlie Coyle in Minnesota. Flips it by Petrie. Jumps around one check, but couldn't escape the second. And Lander is back the other way. Got it to Everly. His pass intercepted. Charlie Coyle in for Minnesota. Coyle to the backhand. He scores!
What a shot by the
By Charlie Coyle, who looked like he was going by the net and reached back and tucked it home after he went around Fox. He had 2 Oilers bearing down on him, so he really didn't have the opportunity to use his size to cut to the front of the net. So he really didn't have
This is a simple play where you're looking for pass all the way, and instead of making the pass, the quick release gets under the arm of Elliott. For Elliott, a disappointing start. This one goes right underneath. He overplayed it to the outside, and it found room underneath the elbow.
Tyler Pitlick's been a 5-year pro, and just about every time he gets close to being a regular, he's been hurt. And he's in this opening night lineup, he gets a goal.
Don't you think it's because of injury that he's in as well? Pointing start. This one goes right underneath the elbow, to the outside, and it found room underneath the elbow.
Tyler Pitlick's been a 5-year pro, and just about every time he gets close to being a regular, he's been hurt. And he's in this opening night lineup.
Don't you think it's because of injury that he's in as well? And taking advantage of it. If you need to get your chance, and you gotta make something happen with it.
Magnify image and smart explore dialog. 0% vertically scroll. Play keyboard shortcut K button. 0% vertically scroll.
Number 97, Connor.
Go magnify image and smart explore. 2 seconds.
By Charlie Coyle.
0% vertically scroll.
That has to be the one. It should cross fourth line tonight. Unbelievable play by Charlie Coyle. And the one back and throws it into his wide line. Unbelievable effort, Jamie. And about a week before the break, Mike Yost put Charlie Coyle and Nino Niederreiter on the fourth line. Said we need more from these guys. Nino scored early and Charlie scores late.
Both of them have the ability to use their size. They both have great hands, and they both have shown that in this game. Good response by those guys being challenged to come up with an elevation for their game.
Inside 4 minutes left here in Edmonton. Parisi up against the end boards for Minnesota. Trying to go to the point. It's intercepted. Pouliot kicks it ahead at center. His pass just out of the reach of Everly. Everly's tied up by Suter in the corner. Parisi pinches his man off the puck. Brodin spun around by Pouliot. Out to the point, Clefbaum. And across. A shot by Schultz is deflected. Everly pinned up against the wall by Parisi. Suter lost his stick. Parisi gives his away. A shot through traffic, gloved and held by Dubnyk. And we'll get a face-off in the Minnesota zone.
Oilers not satisfied. They continue to get some opportunities. That's where Dubnyk is really going to show his stripes. 3 minutes left. You know, Oilers will have a couple of looks left in their repertoire. Wild have a pretty good record of holding teams off in terms of shots on goal. Dubnyk's done a pretty good job in this game all the way through.
Scandella plays it ahead for Matt Cook. Sneaks one down the boards and all the way into the Edmonton zone. Minnesota changing behind the play as Roy has it there for Edmonton. Into the Minnesota zone. Scandella back to retrieve in the corner. Gives to Spurgeon, but Roy got there first. Petrie couldn't handle the pass cleanly, and Fontaine's back to pick it up for Minnesota. Fontaine sends it out, and all the way down. This will be icing against the Wild. 2:33 left here in Edmonton. First of a 3-game trip for Minnesota. They open against the last place Oilers. It's been a dogfight here at Rexall Place tonight. The Wild on top by 1.
I mentioned in our pregame show that the Wild will have to find a way to finish. With a couple of timely goals in this game. They have 2 goals on their 29 shots.
Draw controlled by the Oilers. Petrie to Everly. Nugent Hopkins couldn't get a shot away before he was tied up by Cook. Fontaine flips it into Edmonton territory as the Wild change. Nikitin pressured by Carter. Up the boards for Nugent Hopkins, who comes to center. Nugent Hopkins dumps it into the Wild zone. He's the first man in, tied up there by Suter. Granlund up the boards, not out of the zone, however. Shot turns to the wall where Everly is tied up by Brodin. Coyle dumps it out to neutral ice, and Petrie back to pick it up for Edmonton inside 2 minutes left. As Petrie goes ahead to Nikitin. Nikitin. Gives it to Yakupov. Foss starting to move toward the bench. Oilers pull the goaltender. A centering pass comes free to Schultz. A shot blocked by Koivu. Yakupov, extra skater. Schultz with a shot that deflects to the boards. Pominville flips it off the glass. Knocked down by Purcell. Suter settles a bouncing puck. Yakupov has it. His shot rolls in on goal. And we're going to have a penalty against Ryan Suter. He was holding the stick of Derek Roy. And with 1:22 left, Suter settles a bouncing puck. Yakupov flips it off the glass. Knocked down by Purcell. Suter settles a bouncing puck. Yakupov has it. His shot rolls in on goal. And we're going to have a penalty against Ryan Suter. He was holding the stick of Derek Roy. And with 1:22 left, Minnesota will be a man short, plus the extra skater for Edmonton.
Wild got turned around in their own zone. Could not get the puck out. It found its way to the blue line on a couple of occasions, just not all the way out. Mikko Koivu made a key stop on a block where Schultz took way too much time, but Koivu still got out there and slid and made a good sliding save.
And this is what you see. So the first penalty and an early opportunity for the Oilers to get this crowd back on their feet.
Power play brought to you by Wild Sports Nutrition, the natural choice for every day performance.
0% vertically scroll.
Ryan Nugent Hopkins starts on the power play. McDavid is to his left. Maroon to his right. There's a shot from the point. Oscar.
The forwards for Minnesota. Scandella and to Schultz. Back to Everly. He gives to Schultz. Plays it across. Nugent Hopkins down low. Everly, a shot saved by Dubnyk. Lander. Out to the point. Centering pass. Tipped by Pouliot. And then it slid right through the crease.
That went behind Dubnyk. And out the other side.
Koivu fires toward the empty net. Down to 50 seconds left. Schultz back to pick it up for the Oilers. Wild change their forwards, not the defenseman. Spurgeon Scandella remain on the ice. Nugent Hopkins spins away from Spurgeon. Pouliot to Schultz, back to Pouliot. He goes cross ice, and it handcuffs Nikita. Scandella wins a puck battle. He turns and fires well wide. No icing because the Wild are short-handed. The Oilers will have to go back and retrieve. 20 seconds left.
Good job by Scandella. He had nowhere to go. He couldn't go up the wall. He couldn't go behind the net. He spun around and fired it out.
Dubnyk has to cover. Yakupov gave him a face full of snow, and Dubnyk lets him know he does not quite appreciate the maneuver. Face-off coming in the Wild zone with 12:9 left.
A bouncing puck in on Dubnyk, and Yakupov is moving towards it. It dropped down, and I got to give a little bit of a nod there to Yakupov. The puck was loose technically. He put it down. Looked like he was going to play it. And he drove it. And finally, Dubnyk covered it up. But whenever a player comes in on your goaltender, regardless of whether it's legit or not, you got to send a message that it's not appreciated.
And it looks like we might have a penalty here against Yakupov on the play.
They're going to...
Minnesota penalty goaltender number 40, 2 minutes slashing.
Well, they're both going to get one, so Dubnyk responding to the spray.
But I agree with you. I don't think there was anything wrong with the spray by Yakupov. Dubnyk had flipped the puck out. He was going to try and keep the game moving and covered it at the last second. Not much Yakupov can do on that play.
No, he has to put the brakes on. I don't think he came in with the sole purpose to spray the goaltender. He was going after the puck, and that's why when Dubnyk tossed it down as if he was going to play it, you got to let a player. I mean, would you rather have that player mow your goaltender down or throw some snow? But either way, they even it up. They get Yakupov, a guy who knows how to score goals off the ice. And the Wild will have someone serve a Dubnyk's minor. So no harm, no foul there.
Prosser will serve the penalty. Good to see at least Prosser back on the bench after he was rammed into the end boards earlier. The other timeout taken here by Edmonton.
A good amount of time here. I know Edmonton's trying to piece something together with less than 13 remaining. Gives the Wild a bit of a breather here with their penalty killers.
Edmonton's called a timeout. The four skaters for Minnesota huddled in the faceoff circle, and Mike Yeo desperately trying to get their attention to come over and let him take part in the huddle. He now has their attention. Brodin, Bronziak, Koivu, Scandella, the four for Minnesota. Remember, Ryan Suter is in the penalty box, and Yeo wants to have two centermen on the ice to give the best chance possible to win this faceoff. Wild trying to continue their dominance of the Oilers. If you go back about a decade to 2005, the Wild 39-12-3. They're 15-3-1 in their last 19 games against the Oilers. Have won 8 of the last 9 here in this building.
And nothing's changed in terms of number of players. Still 6-on-4 here with the goaltender full.
Koivu will take the draw, even though it's on his weak side. Draw controlled by the Oilers. Schultz to the middle. A one-time blast goes wide. Roy trying to settle it down, but cannot. It comes free to Schultz. His shot blocked by Koivu, and the Wild will escape Edmonton with a victory. 2-1 Minnesota. Minnesota, and the Wild kick off the second half with a road win.
Well, a lot of good performances. It wasn't a beauty. They had to squeak it out. But nevertheless, they got the 2 points, something they wanted to do to get that second half started on the right foot. And some good performances by a number of players, including Devin Dubnyk, who gets another victory in a Wild sweater.
Our 10-star star of the game, the man who scored the winner, Charlie Coyle. His 6th goal of the year, and Minnesota needed it tonight. It was the difference maker in this 2-1 win. The Wild picked up 2 huge points in the standings, and they're now just 1 back of Dallas, 3 from Colorado, 7 from Calgary in the final playoff spot. That's who they'll face next. But Jamie, always good to start this 3-game Canadian trip with a victory.
Very good, Anthony and Mike. Some fired-up players in that final huddle for the Minnesota Wild. We'll break this game down next on Wild Live, presented by CenturyLink. We'll take a closer look at that beauty of a goal by Charlie Coyle and also Nino Niederreiter's big night. Plus, hear from head coach Mike Yeo, all coming up next on Wild Live.
Back inside Rexall Place, everyone, as we get set for the final meeting of the season between the Oilers